Well, hi everyone. You're not going completely crazy. It is just after 1 o'clock on a Friday, and yes, Solid Ground is playing. That's because we've got a special topic to talk about. It's all about the Olympics, it's all about women getting beaten up by biological men. So we're going to talk about that, but again, I just want to assure you this is Solid Ground, but coming to you on a special on a Friday afternoon. So I'm very pleased to bring on a key guest who I suspect you'll be familiar with. Bob, how are you?
Yeah, I had to especially get back into the cafe just so I could talk to you, Simon. Is that an excuse for me to have a coffee?
Well, it is an excuse to have a coffee. As you can see, it's perpetual verdant and sunny where I am here as well. But I can sort of see we continue to coordinate in the colour front with all the blacks. But look, a very serious topic to discuss, which is why we've come on live. And actually, that's an encouragement to people watching. If you've got any comments around what we're about to talk about, it's about the boxing, women's boxing at the Olympics. Jump onto the Family First Facebook page. Your messages will come into our system here, and we'll do our best to answer. A lot of the pressure is going to be on Bob, though. He's much more of an expert in this space than I am. So, Bob, handing over to you. Talk us through what's happening.
Well, I woke up this morning to the news, and I had been pre-warned about it that it was going to happen. But basically, what we saw was it wasn't in weightlifting this time, it was in boxing. And in the women's division, we found a biological dude with XY chromosomes boxing against an Italian woman. So the Algerian by the name of Imane Khalif, maybe is how you say it. I hope I got that right. Previously disqualified in both 2023 in the World Championships because of a test that found that he had XY chromosomes. Now, he was allowed to get into the ring. It lasted about 46 seconds, I think, and the Italian woman, basically, she received basically a hiding because she got punched so viciously in the head that she she says, my understanding is that she says it was just the hardest hit she's ever felt. And I think, Simon, you've got a video clip of that incident. Have you got that video clip? Did I send you that one? Oh, can't hear you, Simon.
Yeah, so just been uploading actually an image quickly for our viewers to see. You may
Right.
not be able to,
Yeah.
Bob, but actually of
Yeah, I can
Karini,
see it.
she's the Italian in blue, and
Yeah.
Imane, the Algerian in right. But yeah, Bob, you are talking about a video. I'll play that for you now.
Una cosa, non so se si sente. Lui è mio padre.
So that's her father, and this is a year ago when she just got to the Olympics.
Io ho fatto l'ultimo chilometro perché un giorno mi sentii stanca. Prima di Tokyo mi sentivo stanca. Dissi babbo, sono stanca, gli allenamenti sono intensi, però io non mollo. Lui mi disse, Angelina babbo, un campione è un po' come quando combatti, è un po' come il ciclismo. Il campione quando vede l'ultimo chilometro lo sai che cosa fa? Pedala ancora di più. Allora tu arriva a quell'ultimo chilometro e pedala, vai fino in fondo perché io sarò sempre con te. E così ho fatto. Fino alla fine ho combattuto con sangue negli occhi perché volevo a tutti i costi questa vittoria, solo per mio.
Yeah, so this is a year ago, and she basically had just qualified for the Olympics. So it was an absolute dream. She's showing a image of her father who had died just recently before that, and so she's committed to training for the Olympics. She turns up to the Olympics, and amidst all this confusion around gender ideology, she comes up against XY chromosome biological dude, and lasts 46 seconds in what should have been the dream of her life. She, goes off crying. They do the bit in the middle where they hold hands, and of course, the umpire or the referee has no option but to lift the red team's hands, and it's just a very sorry sight. And yet, I think, Simon, your statement that you sent me was perfect. When ideology overrides biology, women get hurt. And, look, this ideology is harming the woman the most.
Yeah, and this is the outrage that we're seeing now actually right across the internet, social media. You're even seeing it to some degree on mainstream media. I've noted a number of them. I was just looking at the BBC. Are assiduously avoiding actually describing who Amane is.
Yeah.
But there is outrage. I know, Bob, you and the team put some stuff up on social media only a couple of hours ago, and hundreds of likes, hundreds of comments, and actually hundreds of shares. So again, to listeners, why we're doing this is actually there's a real outrage of what is happening here. And it's also an opportunity, therefore, for everyone to actually begin to think about, I'm just going to put this up while we're talking, Bob, to begin to firstly understand what's happening, and we'll get Bob to talk through that. And secondly, to actually get involved. There's a petition via whatisawoman.nz. There's a petition that's live at the moment. How many signatures have we got already, Bob?
There's more than 25,000, and we're wanting to present it in the next week or so, because obviously this is a big issue, and I think for a lot of people that never really understood the consequences of confusing ideology over biology, here is a perfect example. We sort of saw it with the weightlifting with Laurel Hubbard competing against women, but of course he didn't actually get right to the end, so it was kind of like, and it's kind of like not one-on-one type harm, but in boxing, you know, it is clearly strength. It clearly goes against everything we stand for in terms of fairness. And interestingly enough, Simon, as we talked about on our news show, Political Playback last night, this buzzword around equality. Well, this is not equality in terms of equal opportunity and fairness and respecting the difference between male and female. And so we're just seeing the consequences of this harmful ideology.
Yeah, and it's real harm. 46 seconds. And look, I don't have the exact quotes in front of me from Angela Carini, so again, the Italian boxer. But it was, it's boxing, so of course it was violent. But she was hit and hit hard. I think it's probably important. Look, talk us through who the Algerian is. I think there's also a Taiwanese man, but biologically men, XY chromosomes. But I think important, and do correct me on this, they would be intersex rather than strictly in the trans side. You mentioned someone like Hubbard is a biological man who chosen to identify as a woman. I think there's a bit of nuance around here for Amane Khalif that they are intersex because of some of their physical characteristics, but chromosomally XY, hence coming with added strength. But do you mind just talking us through that a little bit?
Yeah, and remember that intersex is a medical condition. You know, it's not an identification as such. It is a confusion around, parts of the body that are both male and female, and it occurs in about 1 in 2,000, and it is dealt with medically, so it's not kind of like just how they identify. But look, just before I touch on that, Carini, the Italian woman, she said this: "I am heartbroken. I went to the ring to honor my father. I was told a lot of times that I was a warrior, but I preferred to stop for my health." This is after 46 seconds. "I have never felt a punch like this. I got into the ring to fight. I didn't give up, but one punch hurt too much, and so I said, enough. I'm going out with my head held high." And well, you know, in tears. There's also an amazing image of her just on her knees on the canvas, and I think people just felt for her. Look, it's a lose-lose situation for both fighters, because the Algerian fighter is in the midst of this ideological storm, and the problem is that you've got two bodies. You've got the International Boxing Association, who made a decision and did two tests. They actually did a test at the IBA Women's World Boxing Championships in Istanbul 2 years ago, and then they did a test in New Delhi last year. And interestingly enough, Simon, both of these, what country is, I'm not sure what the other woman is from. Is she Chinese? I just didn't see that.
Taiwan.
Somewhere. Taiwan, thank you. Taipei, Chinese Taipei. So she neither of them appealed the decision. So they accepted that it was legally binding, and it was reviewed by the International Boxing Association. But the problem is that the International Olympic Committee has taken over basically boxing matches sanctioned for the Olympics, and they have a different standard. And it's, my understanding, is a lower standard. The Olympic Committee came out. Now, I think, listen to the buzzwords just in what the International Olympic Committee said in response to this furor. The first sentence sort of says a little bit. Every person has the right to practice sport without discrimination. Well, we have male and female categories. There's discrimination from the minute you register to be an Olympian. So there's discrimination then. And the question is, does a woman have a right to only compete against other women and not biological men? But here's the interesting thing. The Olympic Games in Paris 2024 said that all athletes participating in the boxing tournament must comply with the competition's eligibility and entry regulations. Listen to this sentence, Simon. As with previous Olympic boxing competitions, the gender and age of the athletes are based on their passport. Now, the passport is based on your birth certificate. And for anybody who's been watching in the last 5 minutes, New Zealand has a farcical birth certificate that can be now done on identification. So I can start identifying as a woman. I go and get my birth certificate changed. I then apply for a passport. In the United States, you can apply for just an X on your passport. And so then I turn up to the International Olympic Committee to box against women. And they say, well, Bob, you look like a dude. And I do. But my passport says female because that's what my birth certificate now says. You can see just how harmful this ideology has become. And this is just the natural consequence of this ideology. And Simon, what this Olympics is really showing us, not only with this issue, but also with the opening ceremony and the furor around that, is the secularization of our culture. We are losing our way, and it is showing it. It's manifesting itself so obviously in these Olympics. It's really quite a sight to see.
Well, it's manifesting the real harm, as you say. You know, when ideology trumps biology, people get hurt. And actually, in this case, it's women getting hurt. And you know, there's a number of websites and so forth, satirical ones, at the moment pointing out it's almost like domestic abuse, but it's been allowed. I mean, at the end of the day, I would make the argument, regardless of what one thinks around issues of intersex and trans and so forth, at the end of the day, a woman, in this case the Italian boxer, has been hurt, not only physically, which is of course the most egregious part of it, but also, as you indicated through that video, she's worked so damn hard to get to the Olympics, a dream beyond dreams for many of these people, and yet then trumped, effectively, by what remains, regardless of what label people might use, someone that is a biologically male chromosomally, which does bring a difference. And that's why we do discriminate. You know, we can't have a world that doesn't. And if I might just finish on this from my side, Bob, and kick back in, is, you know, the Olympics is ultimately about discrimination, because people like me don't go there because we're useless. It discriminates on those who are able to be the best.
Yeah, and look, I just happen to be wearing my soccer referee shirt because
better put you back on then.
You know, this is a sporting topic, and I was supposed to be refereeing a game later on today. But look, sports do discriminate, and it's around safety and fairness. And I do remember coaching, a friend was coaching, I had also coached, but a friend was coaching this school team and they were playing against another girls soccer team from another school. And the central defender was actually a biological dude and was basically cleaning up the pitch. You know, nobody was getting through. It was quite unfair and everybody could see it. But of course, in this new age of diversity, equity, and inclusion, you're not allowed to speak up on this lest you be cancelled and called, exclusionary and a bigot. And look, this is not the first sport to really have this issue. Like I said, it's been the case with Laurel Hubbard in the weightlifting. You've also had Riley Gaines competing against a biological man, Leah Thomas. And Riley Gaines now has a huge profile. She was one of the ones to tweet about the unfairness of this whole situation and actually wants an image of the Italian boxer to go viral on social media. And then you also had the surfer. I've totally forgotten her name. I had it on my piece of paper. She had her leg bitten off, her arm bitten off by a shark, and somebody will message it through to us.
Yeah, message it through. If you're on the Family First Facebook page, jump on there because I can't Google it while I'm looking at this camera.
No, that's right. Well, you can, but we'll just know you are. She was competing against. She basically said she will not compete in surf competitions if it's against men, simply because of the difference between them both. And then, of course, last year at our forum, we had Deborah Akerson, who is maiden name was Deborah Lovely. She's one of Australia's best weightlifters. She's kind of in the Hall of Fame for Australian weightlifting. And she had to compete against Laurel Hubbard and just said it was completely unfair. And Bethany Hamilton, thank you very much to who said that, Simon? Sue, thank you, Sue. Sue's on our board. She's looking after me. Bethany Hamilton, that's the one. And of course, that movie is Soul Surfer. If you want to watch a great family movie tonight, Soul Surfer involves a shark attack, but it's a wonderful testimony to her grit and determination to get back on a surfboard with only one arm, which I can't even do it with two arms. And Simon, you probably couldn't do it even with a trainer wheel. So, yeah.
And just
You
one
still
of the
there?
Yep, it's still there, listening intently. I've sort of been feeling I've been talking over you at times. So, look, just one thing we should return back to is there's a real clash here between, is it the International Boxing Federation and the IOC, the Olympic Committee? And look, I'm probably conflating two different issues, but the Paris Olympics didn't start too well with overweight blue men on tables. And now we've got this. Is the IOC completely out of touch? And surely the International Boxing Federation's view should take more weight. No pun intended when it comes to boxing.
Very good. This is what the IOC said. It said, and it's probably the only statement they got right. The IOC has made it clear that it needs national boxing federations to reach a consensus around the new international federation in order for boxing to be included on the sports program of the Olympic Games in LA in 2028. Now, they are correct. All the different boxing authorities and groups need to come together and figure this out. And look, I can help them figure it out. It's pretty easy. In fact, most of the world can help figure it out. And, they could easily solve this, but they want to go down this wokesful of basing it on identity. Look, the intersex thing is definitely a nuance, but at the same time, you also have to have a biological standard on which that is based. Now, the problem is that measurement is differing depending on who the oversight group is, and you just have to look at what's happening with both Laurel Hubbard and weightlifting and now this boxing, and you can see they're getting it wrong. And look, to be honest, intersex haven't suddenly arrived on the planet. They've been around for years and years. We haven't had this issue before. It's because gender ideology is really driving this, and this whole wokeness around diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is resulting in women getting hurt. And Simon, you and I as men, we've got to man up and really speak up on this. But at the same time, I would encourage women to really speak up on it. And the way they can speak up on it is to sign our petition, because we want to get this issue in front of Parliament and force them to debate this issue about how we define women in our policies and regulations when we're dealing with the whole use of toilets. For example, you'll be aware, Simon, that Tanya Unkovich from New Zealand First has introduced a private members bill, which means that when toilets are being built, they have to have a male, a female, so male only for male, female only for female, and then one other for anybody that can't figure out those
it's
two.
Called, it's ironically, Bob, it's called choice, which you'd think a lot on the left or progressive or whatever you want to call them would agree with. It's about choice. It's being terribly misrepresented, I would argue, in the public realm, as if somehow there's going to be a mandated, only, if you will, a singular type of toilet. It's very broad, as you say, male, female, and then for others, which is perfectly logical. Perfectly logical.
And then, of course, Tanya Unkovich turns up to a select committee, and Labour MP Ingrid Leary mentions that she's a well-known, that Tanya Unkovich is a well-known transphobic. And in fact, Ingrid had to apologise in Parliament yesterday for that statement. But that is a label that is thrown around, and for any woman who may not agree that you can just choose to be a woman, then they're labelled a TERF, a trans exclusionary radical feminist. Apparently you're a radical feminist if you believe that only women can be women. Well, I must be a radical feminist as well, because only women can be women. I mean, as I say to my mates, if you want to know what is a woman, marry one and you'll soon find out. That's how I've learned.
Well, without complicating it too much further, again, two points. One is this ongoing abuse, which you just mentioned happened in Parliament, directed at a New Zealand First MP. You see it in general discourse. We've got it ourselves. But of course, at the moment, New Zealand police are being trained in detecting hate speech and some of their guidelines, as you'll know. And I'm sorry to viewers that we don't have it to hand. This is literally live. We've just decided to do it about half an hour ago. But police are going around with their materials internally that say if anyone says there are only two genders or two biological sexes, that is hate speech. So you now have police making up policies. There is no law on this, by the way, and that's why I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too far. But police, if you will, enforce the laws that Parliament passes, and yet here's a massive overreach. There is no law, but police have decided, or the hierarchy, to try and indoctrinate, for want of a better word, police officers to look out for people who might, God forbid, say that there's only two biological sexes. That's now deemable as hate speech by police. It's just nuts, Bob. Just nuts.
Yeah, natural consequence of an ideology that was always harmful. And I think that's why there is starting to be a turning point. Certainly in all the polling that we've been doing, we've been noticing an increasing resistance to this ideology, because people are seeing what happens as a result. They're seeing, in terms of sport, that's a very obvious one, but it's also in terms of safety for women in toilets and changing rooms. It's also in terms of what we're teaching children, and therefore this kind of rapid onset gender dysphoria because other kids are having it. It's being suggested to them. They're questioning, well, was I assigned my birth by the doctor and they got it wrong? And then on to, puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. So this is the natural consequence of confusing biology, and we're seeing it all come to fruition in the Olympic Games. And of course, the whole world is watching, and so now this whole debate has started. And I saw a lot of Penny says, I'm a TERF and proud of it. Police are there to have us uphold the law. They are not there to make the law. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
spot on.
Yeah. Penny, be a proud TERF. Exactly. Because a TERF is a derogatory term for someone who believes in biology and that only a man can be a man and a woman be a woman. But Oh, I was just saying that, you know, a lot of people said, look, that wasn't the Lord's Supper that they were trying to portray, that it was some other festival, or yeah, all these excuses that have come out. But what the real issue was, I mean, for most people, and in fact, even the organisers have admitted that yes, there was reference to the Last Supper according to that painting, but at the same time, you've also got this whole push of transvestites. There was drag queens. There was a woman in the middle with the halo. It basically is an example of what's happened as our culture has rejected God, and if you don't stand for something, then you accept anything, and that's what our culture is doing, and we're actually seeing that visually before our eyes. And it's an eye-opener for a lot of people. I don't know about you, Simon, but I'm not actually surprised by any of that I'm seeing, because we knew it was coming. But for a lot of people, basically they've been persuaded that it's not happening, but it is.
Yeah, I mean, and these things happen in increments. And yeah, those of us who follow politics and cultural norms, certainly like you and Family First do, and now joining the team and having been in politics, absolutely, this is that slow incremental change. And others talk about it, they just take one little inch and then another inch and another inch, and before you know it, you're miles down the road. And so, yeah, I mean, the games openings were not a surprise. I mean, obviously, we didn't know specifically it was going to happen, but the fact that it occurred, particularly at the Olympics, I thought ultimately, Bob, was exceptionally telling, because the Olympics is about excellence. It's about, being the best you can be, fit, strong and healthy. And yet somehow the French organisers decided not only to celebrate the Olympics and France with, yes, drag queens, many overweight, celebrating drunkenness through the Greek god Dionysius, which I might add, most people probably had to look up the internet to work out who he was. I'm not quite sure how drunken revelry orgies fits into the image that France wants, nor elite sport. I might also add, for those who are curious, there's multiple. If you know your Greek myths, there's at least 3 stories around the god with a small g, Dionysius. But one is that his mother, and I always forget her name, begins with P, Peri. Anyway, it doesn't matter. She's known as the Queen of Hades, the Queen of Hell, and I just thought that was a fascinating thing. Bob, I know that people will be wanting to know how they can contribute. Obviously, they're commenting online and so forth. But we've got this petition that you've been running for a little while, whatisawoman.nz. So just talk people through that.
So this has been going for about a year, and it specifically came off the back of Chris Hipkins when he was Prime Minister. Remember, he was asked, what is a woman? And he really struggled to answer it. He said, he hadn't been briefed, basically he hadn't been briefed on it and prepared for the question. And, he sort of obfuscated around just simply saying adult human female. But the issue is really that in a lot of areas, I mean, for example, Health New Zealand, Ministry of Health have just come out with a document basically saying that not only women menstruate. It's just going totally against biological reality. But this is our health department. We've got midwives who don't want to use terms that refer to the biology of a woman. Only a woman can give birth, and being mothers, etc. So what it is, it's always been about an attack on the nuclear family. And it started with confusing the definition of marriage. It's now confusing the issue of gender. And then as a result of that, we're seeing all this consequence in terms of sport, in terms of safety of women, in terms of confusing children, in terms of how we define a pregnant woman, and can a man get pregnant, which he can't. And so we think it's time to clearly define what is a woman in policy, so that we don't end up with situations like we are seeing in Paris, with the boxing, with women being harmed, with biological men being able to go into a woman's toilet or changing room. For example, Riley Gaines, when she competed against Leah Thomas, so Riley Gaines is a biological woman, very good at swimming. Leah Thomas walks in, he's not very good as a male swimmer, but then he decides to identify as a woman, and he's actually in the woman's changing room. So the women were having to change in front of him or with him, and then he comes out and he competes and does very well. And you'll notice that Leah Thomas is not on the on the roster for the US team at swimming at the Olympics, because the Swimming Association basically figured out, gee, we've got a male section and a female section, and no matter how you think, you will either be male or female based on your chromosomes. So once again, some sports are coming around to it, but other sports are being super woke around this issue, and people involved in those sports need to push back on it.
They most certainly do. And so again, can I just encourage people, I'll put this up while I'm talking, but can I encourage you to go to the whatisawoman.nz webpage, read the materials there, obviously make your own decisions, but I'd encourage you to do so in light of what we've seen today, which is where we started, that, an Italian female boxer lasted 46 seconds in the ring against Imane Khalif from Algeria, a biological male, who, XY chromosomes, if I want to be completely precise, because just the sheer physicality and violence and the righteous outrage which is occurring from people. So consider signing a petition. We will want to. We're going to present that to Parliament, aren't we, Bob?
Yeah, well, I think we've been collating it and making sure that it's solid. Like I say, more than 25,000 signatures. So Ken Buist, who's our social media guru and marketing, he's been a very busy boy, but he's also got lots of other work going on with all the stuff that we're doing and all the social media presence. So we're getting that collated, and we want to present it, and we're hoping to get a couple of members of Parliament to receive that. As you can imagine, Simon, it's not kind of the one that a lot of politicians will be running out to accept. A petition actually saying, gee, women should be recognised as adult human females. For some reason, they don't want to go near that issue. So, but this, I think what's happened today and the amount of heat that I've seen on social media and even the mainstream media having to report it shows that it is the topic du jour. That's my French coming out there, Simon.
Oh,
the topic of the day. Merci. So, everybody is talking about it because sometimes you just need these tipping points of the aha moment when people say, I was willing to put up with this ideology. I wanted to be nice. I didn't want to be mean, but wow, I've actually seen just how harmful it can be. And actually, I don't like seeing a biological man, or even if he is intersex but he has XY chromosomes, I don't want to see that type of power against a woman, and a woman being hit in a way she has never been hit before, which she admits, even though she's been in the boxing sport for a number of years. People just don't like that.
No, it's just not the fair play that we expect in sports, period. It actually won't surprise you, Bob, and very quickly I've had messages from New Zealanders around the country that are actually talking about their own sports here. And that's bad enough, by the way. But, here at the most supposedly prestigious games, this is happening. It's on full display. But as we keep saying, this ideology has, all puns intended, has real impacts. And as we saw in the boxing this morning, people get genuinely hurt, physically hurt, but also, if you will, emotionally. This is, again, I keep thinking of Carini, the Italian boxer who's worked so hard. Hey, Bob, thank you for coming on to this special. To all of you listening in, really great to have had you join this special of Solid Ground. We, Bob and I, will try to do this when different topics crop up to try and keep you up to date. Look, you will know that we are doing a range of shows now. We've got obviously Straight Talk on a Monday night. We've got this Solid Ground normally on a Tuesday morning. We now have on a Thursday at 5 o'clock. We've got Political Playback. These are all live. We take your questions. So thanks and for helping us, guide us in this space. We obviously got McBlog most days, which, strange enough, Bob does, from that same cafe. We've got Pulse Point, which Tumby is doing. There is just no shortage of materials. So look, stay tuned. Thank you for joining us. And as I keep saying, please consider, please go to whatisawoman.nz and sign the petition. For now, from Bob and I, we'll we'll just say goodbye. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon.